Chinese President Xi Jinping has met with his Chilean counterpart, Michelle Bachelet, in Brasilia. The two presidents have agreed to further deepen economic cooperation and political coordination. Xi called for maintaining smooth operation of the China-Chile free trade zone and promoting trade growth and structural diversification. He also advocated stepping up cooperation in mining, agriculture, clean energy, finance, investment, technology, and interconnection, and boosting cultural education and tourist exchanges. Bachelet said strengthening cooperation with China is a priority in Chile's foreign policy. She also seeks deeper cooperation in trade, people-to-people exchanges, and education. President Xi Jinping is in Brazil for a state visit. It is the first leg of his Latin America tour, which will also take him to Argentina, Venezuela, and Cuba. Well, as President Xi Jinping ends his visit to Brazil, our correspondent Sui Ting, who has been following the event from Fortaleza, sums up the achievements made at this BRICS Year Summit. And one of the agreements include forming a BRICS Development Bank, a major milestone for these emerging economies that represent nearly half of the world's population.
This year marks the 40th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between China and Brazil. And Xi Jinping said that he's willing and also looking forward to conducting wider exchanges with leaders as well as ordinary people in Brazil. And Xi Jinping have also said that the BRICS summit is just a very good opportunity for all the 5 countries to make better economic integration, because you know that yesterday they are here in Fortaleza and signed a joint declaration with the creation of the new development bank and also contingency reserve arrangement, which is very significant to finance the infrastructure projects as well as to head off future global financial crisis. And yesterday, President Xi Jinping have also made some of the comments on the BRICS new development bank. Let's take a listen.
We
want to extend our gratitude to all that headquarters of the BRICS Development Bank will be in Shanghai. We will need to be prepared to launch, secure that the bank can be launched as soon as possible, and we should push forward with our cooperation, establish the contingency reserved arrangement as soon as possible, and make sure that the BRICS Business Council plays an active role.
The new development bank, the initial capital should be $50 billion. That means that amount of money will be equally shared by the 5 BRICS nations. And the first presidency of the new development bank is India, and the position will be rotate from Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and South Africa. So that kind of institution is very significant to 5 nations. For example, South Africa, they need a large amount of money to make investment in their infrastructure. So such kind of institution is really make a great assistance to South Africa's numerous need for its infrastructure projects. And on the other hand, you know that such kind of institutions would just help reducing poverty, creating more jobs, and also to just reducing some of the inequalities in those poor nations.
Like our reporter Sui Ting has just said, the main headline of the BRICS meeting so far has been the creation of a development bank, and the headquarters will be in Shanghai, set up with an initial $50 billion of capital. The leaders also agreed to the establishment of a $100 billion contingency reserve fund for struggling nations. Stephen Gibbs in Fortaleza has more on the deal.
After years of discussion, the leaders of the BRICS nations came to a firm agreement: the establishment of a BRICS Development Bank and a reserve fund. Essential institutions, proponents say, that reflect the way the world is changing.
This is now a multilateral world, which can and must have various multilateral institutions. The G20 is one, the BRICS is another. The establishment of the BRICS Development Bank and the Reserve Fund is a logical consequence of these changing times.
The bank's main purpose will be to provide major finance for infrastructure projects in the developing world. One region it will focus on, and the location of its first regional branch, will be Africa. The accompanying $100 billion reserve fund will provide potential bailout money for struggling economies, an alternative to the existing lender of last resort, the International Monetary Fund.
The reason that these countries set up the new bank is their dissatisfaction with existing institutions like the World Bank. So in order to do that, you have to obviously start financing projects in other developing countries, particularly in Africa and Asia. So I think the first couple of years we will see perhaps some test projects within the BRICS countries, and then the bank will be expected to engage in other parts of the developing world as well.
One criticism of the project is that all the BRICS nations, including here in Brazil, already have their own development banks. So why create another?
I think the fact that they're able to build a development bank now shows that they're quite serious about this endeavor and show a willingness also to work together in the long term.
This is the long-term collective project which it's hoped will help bind the BRICS nations together. The real test of that lies ahead once these new global financial institutions are up and running. The target date for that is 2016. Stephen Gibbs, CCTV, Fortaleza, Brazil.